Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back. I'm Brooke. I am here with Rachel. Rachel and I actually met, was it 8 months ago in Telegram?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, we met in a chat group and decided to go to Utah to the Dope Trip Festival and had never met each other before. It was an epic trip. It was a lot of fun. So I'm super excited to have Rachel on here today. Rachel has really gotten into runes. Am I saying that correctly?
Mhm.
You also do cards, you do astrology. What else?
I do tend to study a lot of philosophy, some psychology, but maybe not as much now. So history and philosophy is kind of where I'm going with it. But yeah.
I love it. So it's kind of been a little bit of a I don't know, my energy's really I'm nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous, and I feel the need to say that.
Yeah, you haven't been on for a while. Maybe that's part of it too. You've had a lot going on.
Oh yeah, there's definitely been a lot going on. It was kind of funny today to be able to take a break, and you got to see the pictures on Telegram to go wedding dress shopping with my best friend. And the irony is 6 months ago, the Cancer new moon is when her and I were hauling stuff off, and we discovered two mice in the truck that got out of the truck bed and went into the bed of the truck, the cab of the truck, and we had to drive home. And I literally had my legs hanging out because we had like the tops off, the doors off, everything. And I had my legs hanging out, and I was like, girl, if a rat or a mice gets on me, I am going to jump out of this truck while it's going down the road. Yeah. So it was pretty cool for us to come back for another magical adventure, minus the mice.
Yeah, minus the mice for sure. Yeah, that's interesting. There are definitely some mousy energies about. This might be too much, but there is one that died in the garage. Apparently, I have not really been out there to experience that. But that is definitely part of it. But I think it's kind of a good thing because mouse energy is really good. It can be really good, but it can also be really frantic and really nitpicky and not healthy. So for me, I was like, oh, good, the mouse is gone. Yes.
Yeah, we had no idea what happened to them. Like they got in behind the seats, and we never saw them.
Funny. Yeah. That's so strange.
Yeah. And she was like, hey girl, you got to drive. This is like 2 days later. You got to drive my truck. And I was like,
your mouse truck?
Have you looked for the mice? And you want me to drive it? And the doors are on? I panicked. Like I'm even panicking thinking about it. I was like, oh my word.
Oh, that would not be fun to drive with and just have them around while you're driving. No.
I know, right? I kept going. I could see it climbing up the rails and landing.
That would still be better than under the gas pedals or something. Oh, no thanks. Yeah. Hopefully, I'm sure they're out by now, for sure.
Absolutely. So I would love for you to share with me more about what you're doing with the people that you come together, sharing about the runes, the classes that you're doing, the education that you're doing. And I'm just going to let you talk.
Thank you. I'm mostly self-taught at this point. I have some classes kind of in the back of my mind, but it's just kind of as it happens. If it happens, it will happen. And most of those are herbal. or something like that. But mostly I'm self-taught. I have about 40 books on my tablet that I'm going to get through eventually. But I have been doing shows with Benjamin Balderson of Odin's Alchemy, and we've been teaching the runes. For anyone who's new to runes, they're an old alphabet, they're Nordic. Each one of them does have meaning like most alphabets do. So it's just from a Northern perspective on life. And you can use them for divination, absolutely. But it does help to kind of understand what each of them means. So we've made several videos kind of going through what each of them means. There are 3 sets of 8 for a total of 24. So we've gone through the first 2 sets. We still have 1 more to do. And then we will start kind of going over stories. Balderson is an electrician and an actual alchemist. So his worldview is incredible. And I kind of bring just the feminine view. I also grew up in a Christian home. So this is, a very new thing to me. It's very beautiful to me. Part of it does have to do with my own history. I'm mostly Irish and Mexican, but I do have a little bit of Northern stuff in my genes, and it felt really important to explore that, especially because I think it's becoming kind of a big thing. It's going to be in the spotlight. So I think right now it's important to start getting people educated on everything that it is and everything that it is not. Because the tendency when people start exploring their own heritage, especially if it's Northern, especially if it's European, is to say you're a racist. And
not cool.
That's a little not okay. So kind of dispelling some of that and getting really real about what this stuff means. So
how do you do a reading with them?
So there are a couple different ways that you can do that. Traditionally, you throw them and you read, there's different ways to decide some lines that you can have out and say, oh, okay, certain amount of them are faced up on this line. There's definitely a way to do it. I usually just shuffle them around and pick kind of intuitively, just like in a bag and like not look. But it's definitely something that you have a relationship with. It takes a lot of work to make your own tarot deck. If you make it like right, you're not just copying the picture in your own style. If you really take the time to make it, it can be a little less intensive, but because they're talking about how life works, it can be very intense, and they are very serious, and they are very real. They're really beautiful. But it's normal and encouraged to make your own set, generally out of wood. There's certain ways to do it. I made mine out of bottle caps for reasons that are special to me.
Kind of like the bottle cap that I got in Utah.
Kind of, yeah. They're hilarious. It has a lot of meaning for me, the way that I made them. So, I had a few friends who were like, oh, that's really untraditional and I don't know about that. But it's like, it was really special. So, one day I would like to make like a real set, out of wood and like do the whole traditional thing. But
I'd never really gotten into them and really didn't know anything about them until I guess it was around Lionsgate portal time, a little after Lionsgate. Cats started showing up everywhere. Everywhere I went, cats were showing up. And I had put a post on Facebook, and a gentleman that I'd met through another spiritual group, Hawk Journeys or Hawk Intuition, something like that. It's on Facebook. And he and I had become friends. He's on, the journey as well. And he reached out to me and was like, hey, you need to start connecting with Freya since all the cats are popping up. And I'm like, okay. And then he started talking about his runes, and he's actually making them.
Yes. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard of it, never come across it. I didn't know, and I still don't know. I don't know anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. Freya is actually a big reason on why I started exploring them, because I was doing a lot of feminine healing,
Mm-hmm.
and I will complain a little bit about it, because a lot of, I mean, they're very beautiful priestesses. They're not the problem. What I dislike is when you say that all of the goddesses are the same energy, because they are not.
Mm-mm.
They are not.
Mm-mm.
And I had a very beautiful experience healing with other, entities. But I know during one of the meditations, I was like, you know what? I need Freya. Like, I already have, a goddess that I connect with, that I've always been with. And this just felt really important to do that healing, to clear that kind of line. It was like, I need to connect with Freya on this. And I did, and it was very beautiful. And so it just kind of went from there. It wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to learn all the divination styles and I got to learn runes too. It was just like, this is part of me. And I think that's something people don't think about when they learn stuff. It's like, learn whatever you want, please. But also learn what's in your bones, learn what's in your blood.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be so special and so magical for you. It's going to work for you.
Yeah. I connect a lot with shamanism and the Indians because that is such a large part of my heritage, my dad and my mom's. So I really haven't stepped too far out of that. Like, I have Irish heritage. That's where the four-leaf clovers come into play. I've always connected to the angels fairly easy. Even as a child, I've always been very connected to that dimension. It was easier coming from a Christian background for me to accept and work with the angels than it was anyone else.
No, I love that.
It was, I had a lot of fears about, and really this last year has been about me coming out of the spiritual closet. Like, I have, had my dad's side of the family fully see me, accept that while I was there at their house, I scheduled nothing. I was just going to spend time with them and my boys, and had a reading come up, and I was open and honest, and I was like, look, this is what I'm going to do while I'm here. Are you cool with it? And for them to accept me and be like, yeah, cool. Because I mean, I made a valid point to tell them, this has been my life for the last 11 years. I just didn't tell anybody. I'm no different.
That's the way that I see it.
Yeah. The only difference is I told you.
Right. It's like, the only difference is that I'm doing this
openly
all the time. Yeah. Because when I sit and I look at like the artwork that I make or the books that I'm reading or anything like that, I'm like, this is stuff that's always been interesting to me. This is not unusual. The movies that I like, the books that I read, I mean, all of it. Nothing is really that out of the ordinary. You know? So I love that. And I did want to say, as much as I want people to explore their blood and everything like that, like, definitely look at everything, but don't feel pressured to jump with everything. Because like I have like a quarter Mexican, like Spanish and things like that. And those things are really special to me and they do speak to me, but some of it doesn't manifest for me. Like, it's very, like, our side is very Peruvian. And so there's some of that history that's just not there. And part of it is like just not having that be a big part of my life and my family. So I have things like the Irish side is so loud. It's just so loud. So I'm like, I have to go with it. But that doesn't mean that I don't have guidance from that other side, because I do. And I do get shown certain things and things that are shared with me. They're very intimate and very special, but it's not stuff that you can just look up online and be like, oh yeah, everybody can experience that. That's, knowledge. I'm like, this stuff is really like, there's no way you could know some of this unless you go down, I would love to go down to Peru and be like, hey, tell me about this. Does anyone keep these traditions? Does anyone talk about this? Is this still on the radar for anybody? Like, it's not talked about mainstream. So, but that's just something to note, is like, please explore everything, but don't feel pressured. Definitely always go with what is strongest, and trust that you're so loved, and you're gonna have the guidance and the wisdom. Because I've had so many fun dreams where even like my Irish great grandma will look at that Mexican side and be like, I love that about you. You don't know, your family loves you, your bloodline is all about you.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, they definitely are. My grandmother showed up quite a bit today. And what was interesting is Nancy's mom and dad both have passed, and they've talked to me quite a bit to talk to her too. And yesterday I was upstairs getting ready. I was by myself and I hear, hey, we're back. And I come out of the bathroom. I'm like, hey girl, what's going on? Where you at? And I look, nobody's there. Go down the hallway, nobody's there. And I'm like, okay, so go outside, nobody's there. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I told her, I was like, girl, I think your mother's like yelling at you. And she goes, you're not the first person that has said that to me. Yeah. Hey, I'm home. I was like, hey girl.
Sweet.
Nobody's here.
Except somebody is.
Okay. I mean,
that's fun.
And I sound mine. I'm starting to hear people talk.
Right. And that's, I think, a lot of astrologers and people just in the spiritual communities have been saying, the veil is thinning. And that's what that means, is just heightened awareness. When people, like, how do you visualize that concept? What does that mean to anybody? It means that everyone's going to be more sensitive to that on some level, to some degree.
It really reminds me, and it takes me back to Halloween 2019. And that's really when my ascension to the next level really started kicking in. That's when the communication to the dead started getting stronger. It's always been there, but 2019, it was kind of like, yeah, you can't run from this anymore.
Right. Get used to this.
Yeah. And the reason why I didn't want to open up to it is because I knew, okay, we've got to be really mindful, especially with the lower vibrational, any entity that lives in 3D, 4D, you've got to be really mindful of connecting with them and the energy that they have. So that always scared me. Like, I don't want to connect with anything that is bad or evil or anything like that. So I had a lot of fears. And I didn't care connecting to my ancestors.
Right.
It was other people's. It was other people's that I didn't want to connect to because I don't know them. It's kind of like strangers invading my own space, but they invade it in my house.
Right. And that's heavy. That's not something that everyone or a lot of people that I know of would be ready for. And I hate saying that because there's no way to know who really is ready for it, because how many people, we only hear about the people brave enough to tell their story. I mean, really, like in my own neighborhood, there could be a decent, handful of people who are experiencing things and never say anything. So I don't want to underestimate the amount of people who are sensitive, because it could be a greater number than we think it is. It's because we're vocal about it, just because we're, saying anything or even exploring it.
Yeah, and that was about the time that I finally told I had told my mom, even as a child, somebody died there, or there's, this dead person, whatever. Oh, Brooke, don't say that. You're making that up. Why would you tell stories? Why would you tell a lie like that? And reflecting back, I was terrified to open up and speak about it because
Mm-hmm.
I'd been told it was all in my head my whole life. But then I know things that I shouldn't fucking know. So where's it coming from? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
It's coming from somewhere.
Yeah. I had an experience like that in high school, actually. And I think, I don't know what made me think of it, but I did think about this the other day. And I don't know what was happening. I guess it was my sophomore year of high school. So 2000, I don't know, 2001. But I swear I heard one of the girls in my class. Now I went to a Christian school, and our class, it was a new school. Our class was like 12 people. My graduating class was 12 people because it was so new. And it was pretty even cut, guys and girls. I swear I heard one of the girls say something really mean to me. And when I went to address it, it turned into this huge ordeal. Like, she would never say that about you. And I'm like, I heard it. Right. I heard it clear as day. Like, I'm not making this up. I have no reason. I love this girl. She's so cool. Like,
right.
And stuff like that, has happened. I have a better idea of it now. Mm-hmm. But then it was like, what? Yeah. This is not supposed to be happening.
Right. And, I could even see animals.
That's intense.
Yeah. I mean, it was that Halloween kind of tripped me out.
Yeah. Being able to see it's totally different.
Yeah. And, I think at that point, and especially with it being Halloween, the veil's already thin anyway. So there was a lot of darkness lurking, and that kind of freaked me out too. But I did find comfort in calling in my angels. And as soon as I did, it stopped. And I was like, holy smokes. Okay, so this shit really works. And it was kind of the experience I needed to have.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm glad you had that. And I'm glad that you chose to call in allies, because I think the issue that I have with Halloween now is that so much emphasis is focused on the negative, and we forget that positive can still come through too. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh, the veil is thin. It means that all the bad stuff's going to come out. Like, all the good stuff is still there.
Yeah, but once you raise your vibration up so high, they can't communicate with you no more.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing that I focused on. I was like, okay, I got to get my vibe high as I can, as fast as I can. So like major purging happened, people, jobs, you name it, just to get to a point to where I knew I was high enough that they couldn't fuck with me.
Mm-hmm. That's something I feel like I've worked really hard to do, but at the same time, it's like when you level up, I mean, there's positive and negative consciousness at every single level. Mm-hmm. So when you level up, it's not that evil's going to come after you, it's that they're already on that board. Mm-hmm. And it's been at that level. So, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like having to continue to get bigger, mm-hmm. because you're going to encounter bigger monsters. If that makes sense. But so I feel like that's like, I've tried to be bigger, and then I've had experiences where it's like, oh, I am not big enough for that to not happen anymore.
Yeah, and it definitely is a learning experience. That last T-square, Uranus and Saturn T-square, hit a lot of Reiki masters pretty hard that I've worked with. We've been doing, and it hit me pretty hard too. It was like all the tools in my tool belt was not working. So, we definitely had to change directions, what worked in the past doesn't work now. So I definitely, I felt that. I mean, this was just like what, 4 months ago, 5 months ago that we had a really hard one with the earthquakes and all that. So yeah, I can definitely see that there's different stages of it, because I mean, we all have, we're all ascending together, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out about the time frame, because it was around that same time frame that I asked some of the groups that I'm in for help. I was like, I'm getting these insane spiritual attacks. What do I do? You know, everything that I was doing isn't working, you know, so having to get better tools, stay serious about spiritual routines and spiritual cleanliness, things like that. So that's a good point, because I noticed, you know, when a friend gave me like a new shielding practice around the time that you and I took our trip, that made a huge difference. It made a huge difference, because it's like, if I'm going to keep raising myself up, I need sleep, and I, you know, I need all this crap to not bother me while I'm sleeping. That's a big part of it. If I'm going to be meditating, if I'm going to be doing any of that stuff, any cleaning, I need all that stuff to stay off. So that was a big part of it for sure. I'm glad you brought that up. You are a Reiki master, so you've got a lot of tools in your belt. What would you recommend for people to get, you know, kind of boosted up? Like, what are some processes? Is it all just meditation? Is it like, what kind of things would you do to get bigger spiritually?
So for me, being a single mom, I've had to keep things simple. Working a full-time job, taking care of 2 kids, and you know, my morning showers is probably the most important thing that I do. And I didn't realize how powerful it was until the cat, I mean, cats don't like water, but this kitten, so help me, every time I take a shower, it's in there like licking all the water. And I'm like, why is the cat always
got a water
in there
cat
after I get out of the shower when it has water in the water bowl? Like, it's not even thirsty. What's going on? And then that's when it hit me, you know, even though I'm not consciously aware of what's happening, as soon as I call in the angels, the energy starts flowing. And, you know, it hit me, okay, the cat's not actually going for the water. It's actually going for the Reiki in the water. So really having any energy work is going to be key. I do it every single day in the shower. If I skip a shower, I feel it. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to brush my teeth. And, you know, that's not typically me. I like to get up. I like to get ready. I like to do my day. So my shower's number 1, always. And I usually, you know, I have a playlist specifically for that puts me in a good mood. I go through, I say, you know, and I'm doing this as I'm washing, multitasking. Okay. Because again, spiritual hygiene is extremely important. At the same time, I have limited time. So I had to find something that worked with my schedule first and foremost. Immediately call in my angels and I just say, thank you for allowing me to get up and do this again today. And staying in that sense of, I didn't have to wake up today. I was allowed to wake up today. So bing, my phone just went off. So that is huge. And then I set the tone to say, okay, you know, angels be with me, guides be with me, whatever I need to know, please let me know. Lead me, protect me throughout my day. So I start my day with that. And then one thing that I found that helped to keep my vibration high and helped while I was sleeping was making a crystal grid around my bed with rose quartz and amethyst, black tourmaline, and selenite.
Mm-hmm.
Just so anything coming in, you've got that energetic grid around you while you sleep. I was huge on Reiki in my house, putting salt around my house, selenite in the windows, because the more energy work you do in the home, the more protected you are. And then before I went to bed, I said, Michael, wrap the house in your golden protection so we can sleep well at night. And I kept it simple, so it was something that I could do every single day.
Yeah, that's the key, is keeping it simple, I think.
And then it just become an unconscious thing. You know, it was just part of my routine. I went through and I did it every single day. And now I don't even think, oh, I need to do my spiritual cleanse. It's already incorporated in my routine for the day. And I'm not one that can sit and meditate.
It's hard sometimes.
Yeah. And, you know, for many years, you know, my Reiki master, the girl that did my Akashic records, I mean, everybody's like, girl, you got to meditate. You got to, and I'm like, I can't. Are you kidding me? I'm like, go. And so if I need to get into a meditative state with, you know, whatever's going on, I try to do it in the shower, start saying my prayers, turn my head off, listen to the music, and just allow the energy in the water to cleanse. And I, again, multitasking, using that for a multi-purpose tool. And allow that to be my meditative state. I get more ideas in the shower than I do anywhere. I get more information from my guides in the shower than I do anywhere, because I am symbolically going through cleansing with the water, cleansing with the energy, and I'm open up to receiving the information. Music's key, and then dancing.
Yeah, I need to do that more.
Just turn it up and dance. You know, what's that? What's the saying? Dance like nobody's watching, sing. How do you say that? I know.
Yeah, it is. It's like dance like nobody's watching, or I don't know the rest of it.
Nobody's listening or something. Yeah. So, I mean, just turn it up, go, and music's a big part of it. And I have specific things for specific energies, you know, for how I'm feeling, like what. And then I like to just allow for my guides to take me to a channel on, like, I use Apple Music a lot because it's on my phone. And I'll go to a specific channel and then just say, okay, well, whatever I need to know, let the music talk to me. Let my guides talk to me through the music. And then just let the music tell me a story. So it makes it a little easier, because it's coming through. You can hear the lyrics, and then you can feel the music. And then, you know, it all kind of goes together in harmony. Right. Like a conversation. Those things are like my top. Like, this is what I'm going to do every single day. And it all starts with my shower.
That's such a big one. I'm so glad you said that, because I found a track, and I probably told you about it like ages ago. It's like exactly 10 minutes long. And it is a track about breaking free of bonds. It's all in German. Like, it's very ritualistic. It's very powerful. It's very beautiful. And when I was living at the other house, I would time myself in the shower with it, but also use it for that cleansing ritual. And it was, and still is, perfect for that. I mean, because that's what it's meant for anyway. It was created with that intention. So yeah, music is really powerful. And I was laughing with somebody maybe it was on a show, but we were laughing, and I was like, there are some tracks that I cannot listen to driving because you're in that meditative state. I tried it one day. I was like, oh, it's only 10 minutes to work, I'm gonna put this music on. I was like, oh no, not driving music. Not at all.
No, and there's times that I can do that just listening to regular music, just like I'm there but I'm not there.
Right.
Well, girl, you got to see it. I'm like, the whole way to Utah, I'm like, we got to manifest. We got to make sure this music's right, girl.
Yeah.
Turn it up and sing.
It was.
And, I mean, looking back on the music that I've listened to over the years, a lot of what I sing is what I manifest.
Yeah. And that's honestly why there's things that I used to love that now I have to love it for what it is, but I don't listen to it as much because I realized what I was singing into my life, the kind of person that I was being, whether or not those things happened, whatever, because some of them did, some of them didn't. But, it's, people are like, oh, well, you can get over that. And, you can still like the music. It's like, yeah, but that it takes work and it takes strength to enjoy it and not manifest it. You're like, I'm just enjoying the song and this is not what's going to happen.
Yeah, because as soon as you start singing, you're speaking it into existence.
You absolutely are. So there are some things that it's like, yeah, I used to like that, but I like other things better. It's not that I don't like it anymore. I think I just learned to like other things more, like other things better.
Yeah, I definitely listen to a lot of love songs.
Trying to find more of them. I'm so picky, but it's also like, I don't know. There's that part of it that's like, oh, it's so cheesy.
Yeah,
but you need it.
Cheesy? I mean,
no, it's so important.
When you hear the lyrics of something that you're like, yes, that's what I want. That's what I feel.
Right. Well, and also that's what I have. It's like, I could listen to any song and be like, that's God singing to me. This is me singing to God. I can do that with any love song. But yeah, it's like you said, if you want love to come in, it's important to sing that into your life.
Right. So I love that Nancy, she shared a couple of new songs with me today, and I'm actually looking for. I'd never heard them before. Don't even know the artist. And I was like, this is pretty awesome. I was born to love you and ain't met us yet. And anyway, she was like telling me what she wanted to do. And I can't talk about it on here, because it's a secret.
Right.
And she was letting me hear the songs and I was listening to them and I was like, wow. And then like, she gets the best music. I'm like, where do you even find that? How did you find this artist?
Yeah. I feel like sometimes it's a little hard because part of me just has such an aversion to pop music because it's so engineered. And I know that, I can hear it. But at the same time, every now and then I'm like, ooh, but that song is just too good. There's some truth right there. Like when we were driving, there was such a part of me that was like, all the Aquarius was like, it's too mainstream. But then the rest of me is like, no, but some of this is so good and you need to listen. I was like, okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Like, fine.
I'm a sucker for the lyrics. And if it's got a good beat, I'm an even bigger sucker. But definitely the lyrics is usually what gets me.
Yeah. No, yes. Same here.
I know. I'm so sorry that you had to sit with me.
No, I love it. I love it. I don't mean it to sound so. I don't mean it to sound so bad. It was so funny though. I thought it was so funny. I'm like, I'm sitting here being such a grouch, and Brooke's over here like, love. I'm like, no, I do not want to listen to love songs.
I can generally stay in a pretty good mood. I think the only time I was like, and I really wasn't even in a crappy mood. I probably sounded more crappy was when there was water standing in the shower, and I was like, I'm gonna get a shower. That's me.
Oh yeah, that shower was silly.
So do you know what ended up? The camper was unbalanced.
Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm. And that's
okay. We're like, it's broken, something's wrong, and it's just imbalanced.
They were like, oops, sorry, we didn't level it. Hey, that's all right. Hey, listen, those people were really good to me. I can't.
They were really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Like talking to them when they like came to pick up the camper. They were really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had my Lamar, am I saying that right? Ring.
Larimer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not even 2 weeks before it disappeared.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. That's not okay.
Well, I mean, I took it that crystal's very connected to Atlantis. And
that's right.
And I have been healing that timeline. I guess I started working on that timeline close to the beginning of 2019. So 2018 is kind of when it started. And it started with that eclipse that went across.
Yeah.
That's kind of what triggered it. So I really stepped into that Atlantean timeline, started a lot of major healing on that. Actually met the gentleman that I was connected to in that time, which was kind of crazy. It was that instant soul recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Like I looked at him and it was like energy just went. I was like, holy smokes. Okay, I know who you are. I know where you're from. And it was definitely wild to experience. So I really felt that I was still in the process of healing that timeline. So that's the reason why I got that crystal.
It's like, oh no, time's done.
I had it 2 weeks and it was like, and like I had it on my finger and then it was gone. Like, just gone. I don't even know how you lose a ring from your finger.
I've had one fly off.
So I was like, well, okay, and this is kind of how, crystals work. When you no longer need that energy, they're going to move on to where they need to go. So I took that as a sign of, okay, Brooke, you've done that. Quit beating the dead horse. Leave it alone. It's time to move on to the next timeline. Definitely feel Lemurian. It's coming up a lot.
It's been on the radar for years. A lot of, well, I don't want to say a lot of, because I'm like, there's really only like 2 priestesses that I came in contact with. But I know one of them for sure worked very much with the Lemurian timeline. And a lot of them, I keep saying a lot of them, like there's so many that I know about. Hawaii is a big draw, some of that energy there. So I know that's a timeline that people are really working on.
And that's where my Reiki Master has been doing a lot of grid work. I went, I guess it was 2014, 2015, 2015-ish, might have been 2015, is when I took the trip to Hawaii, and I was there for my brother's wedding. And I brought seaweed back with me. And I was like, I don't know why I have to have this seaweed, but I have to have it. And I was kind of worried that they were not going to let me come to the mainland. I brought so much of it back with me.
I'm surprised the island let you take it.
Well, when I went back to my second trip, I got more, because I went back like 2 months later. And so what's interesting is that's where the feminine heart is.
Yes, I've heard this. I've heard that. Yeah. And it makes sense with a lot of the work that these ladies are doing is, you know, working with the feminine and really clearing bloodlines and stuff like that. I think the only thing that makes me feel weird about it is I don't know how many people have super deep traumas. You know, like I get concerned that it becomes more of a business rather than, you know, a mission turned business, because it's like that word is tossed around a lot, trauma. And like, I've had traumas. Everyone has traumas. Mm-hmm. But do I remember being burned at the stake? No. So for me to try to clear that is weird. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessary. And having discernment for that kind of thing.
Right. And I feel the same way you do. And I work with another Atlantean Reiki Master, and she feels the same way. You know, she likes to stay in the present healing and not attach it to, you know, this life or that life or whatever. Sometimes it needs to come up.
Yeah.
You know, I knew that there was going to be a lot of work connected to George Washington, because it was brought up in my Akashic records before this last year even happened. Mm-hmm. So I knew there was a lot of things that needed to be balanced, connected to all the work that I've done over this last year, especially connected to him. And what was interesting and what was brought up about that was she told me that I was holding myself back because I didn't trust the systems that were built, because I helped to build them.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, because military stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So where I was at 6 months ago, questioning everything, because we talked about this a little bit, you know, questioning everything, not really understanding. And now where I'm at now, I'm kind of like, holy shit, that was kind of badass, you know?
Yeah.
I found a video tonight of me and Abraham Lincoln's birthday twin on the bus going to DC. Did I ever tell you this?
No.
Yeah. No. So when Trump said, hey, you know, everybody come, show support, whatever, I was like, you know, I'm really called to go. Everything fell apart, and I ended up on a bus with like 40, well, there was 40 of us on 3 buses. There was like 13 on my bus, something like that. And I kind of freaked out because I didn't know anybody. Similar situation as me and you. I'm looking people online and they're going, and I'm like, can I go too? And then I'm like, is this really a good idea? Like, right? Are these people? You know, are they? Okay? But it ended up being the best trip ever, and we got out in time, thank God. But yeah, I was sitting up front talking to the bus driver, smoking cigarettes out the window, because you had to, like, you know, it was the country music's tour bus, so you'd have to like close the door so nobody behind you. You sit up front and smoke with the driver. So I was like, can I just sit up here with you, because I don't know anybody, I'm by myself, and I can just, you know, smoke, chat, whatever, get to know you, see what country music singers you've worked on. I've probably worked on them at Blackberry Farm, you know. So anyway, this guy comes up and just randomly, I'm like, well, you know, I really had to be on this trip because I shared a birthday with George Washington. Of course, I didn't go into the details of what I was doing while I was there.
Right.
You know, I don't want people thinking that I'm crazy. And he was like, no shit, I share the same birthday as Abraham Lincoln. And I was like, shut up. It was actually a lot louder than that.
I believe that.
And then I was like, okay, well, we got to tell everybody this because no proof, it didn't happen, right?
Right.
And tonight I found the video. I was like, I put it on my Telegram.
I didn't see that.
I literally just posted it right before.
Okay.
Because you know, here I've been going through clearing all this stuff, and I'm like, what's this video? I forgot that I even had it.
That's great. I'm glad you found that.
I had to share it, and I was like, that's how God works.
Right? Crazy confirmation.
Right?
Synchronicities abound. I love it.
Yeah. So after doing that, you know, picking you up to go to Utah was nothing.
I know. You're telling me that story. I'm like, dang, this lady, like, she's a warrior. She's a champ. She's so brave. Like, she just does all this stuff.
Not gonna lie, I was like, okay, guys, I have to make it home alive. And we did have that conversation. I was like, I know what I'm walking into. I understand that this is a war zone. Like, I get that. We are fighting ourselves from the inside out, literally.
Yeah.
And I know that. And I know that I'm walking into a war zone. So what can I legally have on me to protect myself, first and foremost? Secondly, we got to make sure we stay together. There was probably, you know, 1.5 million people, if not 2. Once you, you know, everybody that was over on the stage and then everybody that was at the Capitol, it was a lot of people.
Wow. Yeah, that would be a lot of people. That's a lot of potential for disaster.
Oh, see, I knew that. I'm like, this
is.
Yeah. You know, we got into DC at like 4:30 in the morning. And of course, all of us that smoke, we like get off the buses. I only know some of the people that, and I didn't know a soul on my bus at all. And we all get out, smoke, whatever. And this dude in a black van rolls up. Or not a van, it's like a big black SUV. Because the tour buses were solid black. And he was like, are y'all fucking Antifa trying to fuck shit up?
Yes, I'll admit this. Like, what? No, I'm not.
Can't you tell? We talk really country. We really ain't Antifa.
Not really.
I was like, oh God, please just let me get home alive. What if I go? Thank you. But it was awesome. I think going to California scared me a little bit more than going to DC.
Yeah. Well, you were also on a much more personal mission too. For some of that. Also facing potential natural disasters, if I recall. Which would be very stressful to be heading towards instead of away from. So yeah, I could see that. I could see that being a lot more stressful.
And you know, it really wasn't, and this goes back to what you were talking about earlier. It really wasn't the natural disasters that I was afraid of. It was my opposition.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That is something that I think I'm trying to avoid making generalizations. Some people don't take into account when they start doing anything spiritual is opposition. That's something that I did learn about in my upbringing. So that's something that's been on my radar. If you're going to shine, you are going to ruffle feathers from something or someone. Mm-hmm. So, that's been, I've had that, and that's a good thing that my upbringing gave me and taught me. But there are people who don't know that. And I think that's, it's easy to just start learning things and start building things. And then, it's not always fun and games. If you're really on the path, you will face attack, you will face opposition. And it's not always even, I've seen people be like, oh, the spirit is bothering me, and no. It's not always that. Sometimes it's actual people. Mm-hmm. Consciousness bumping up against consciousness. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it is not a spirit in your house. Sometimes it's your neighbor. Sometimes it's your coworker. Sometimes it's somebody that you don't even know. You won't even know them. You might be out minding your own business.
Yes. Which takes me to just to confirm that, doing energy work with ladies and pushing each other to the point of bringing those triggers to the surface. Mm-hmm. So we can get to the energy, we can dissolve it and send it out. We tend to warrior through, as you say, or as I say, whatever, in order to get it brought up faster, take care of it, and then do the release. And someone had mentioned, paying attention to sudden feelings that you just all of a sudden feel. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the healing moment was taking place, the opposition was taking place, for say it wasn't truly an opposition, but in that moment I got a sudden rush of anger and frustration, and I'm like, hold on, wait, I was just really happy, and now I'm like, what? And in that moment I stopped and was like, okay, this is not mine, so I'm going to send it back. Mm-hmm. That's yours. And literally you could see it go back to the other person. So yes, that is happening, and we have to be aware of what we're sending, and what we're choosing to receive.
That's good too. Yeah, I think that's something that drove me and was driving me crazy about the empath narcissist dynamic. It still kind of bugs me in spiritual circles because I don't know that it's healthy to focus on the dynamic. I think it can be useful to recognize it, but to always say, I'm a sensitive empath, you start to get into victim mentality. And it's like, okay, yes, you are. Yeah, you're sensitive. So bulk up, like stop being the sensitive. Yeah, we're all supposed to be that way. Sorry. And people who are narcissists are actually just as empathic. It is a dynamic of polarity. So we're doing them a dishonor in the battle of polarity, in the harmonization to say, oh, well, they're a narcissist. It's like, okay, well, yeah, but that's when you're dealing with 1 and 2 and mirrors, you're going to have that. It's natural. It is, it's natural. Mm-hmm. And to continue to play good, evil dynamic is not healing anybody. And, that's really, that's just something that I'm like, okay, can we stop throwing these labels around? Can we stop focusing on that and just focusing on being stronger? Mm-hmm. If we're going to be sensitive.
Sorry, I caught a glimpse of something like.
So you're fine.
Like, come on. I'm hearing voices. I'm seeing things.
Right. stuff's going on. I know my phone's going off. And
I know. I told Nancy, I was like, I've never been afraid. I always know when your parents are here. I let you know if there's messages, whatever. I've never been afraid. But I will say this. When I heard something say, hey, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And there was nothing here, that trips me out just a little bit.
When it's so crystal clear loud.
Yeah. When I come out of the bathroom, I was like, hey, girl, you're perfect.
That's only happened a couple times. The first time it happened, I was like taking a late nap. I don't know why. And I just heard like, hi, Rachel. And I'm like, no, I am alone unless I have a friend standing outside my window in the parking lot saying hey and not texting me or calling me. Like, I'm at your house. Like, okay. Hi. Who? Speaking, who's this?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a trip. It's a trip. I think, yeah. I don't even know how you would go about preparing people for those experiences, unless it was like in your family and that's like your child or you're teaching a class, or how would you prepare anybody for something like that?
I kind of feel like that's my next step. Is do I even want to open this door? We know everything that's going on here. Okay. Before this was even, I guess 6 months ago, I don't know, I was talking to my Reiki master, like, how can we fix this? How can we do this? Like, I know. I don't need science to tell me. I don't need anybody to tell me. And that's the hardest, Claire, to explain to people is, I know. I don't know how I know it, but it's a deep knowing. I know what's going to come from this. How can I stop it? Because I felt that sense of, I need to save as many as I can.
Yeah.
And, she did tell me that she was like, Brooke, you have no idea how many like souls I don't even know are showing up. You gotta tell people. And she's like, their choice is their choice. We can't make them choose one way or the other. So with that being said, in knowing that, okay, and knowing what they're saying on the other side, okay, because that's also, I know how they feel about it. They're they were coming to her saying, hey, you got it. And she's like, I can't stop. I can't make anybody do anything. And that could have been where that deep knowing was coming from, considering that they did the trials in the hospital in my hometown. So I was already energetically close to it. Do you see what I'm saying? So, and now, look at everything that's coming out. And I really don't want to go political, girl, but
I know. But it trickles down.
The UK just released a statement, yesterday? That 75% of the people that were dying.
Yeah, it's really serious. Just before I hopped on, a friend of mine was on a show, Chances Vibrant, and she was talking astrology because she's an astrologer. She's wonderful. And she was just looking at this opposition of Neptune and Neptune, Virgo and Pisces. And that's a lot of what she was saying about it, was this spiritual divide on knowing. And the potential is that we're going to come up with is people waking up rapidly and being open to it, And I think we're also going to run into people who are going to slip further into the delusion. You know, I've been saying it, and it's not because I want it to be true, but it's because it's very clear of a potential for two different worlds to be happening, you know.
It's already happening.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that it's already begun. It's already, and as the kind of people that we are, the kind of people that you and I both know, it's pretty much time to step up. And instead of being like, oh no, it's how can I help? Who am I going to help? Because anybody coming in who's open is going to need mentoring, is going to need somebody to hold their hand, is going to need somebody to explain this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, maybe just addressing it as it happens, because I think it's going to be different for different people, how that plays out. But yeah, I think that's something that anybody listening who is more spiritually inclined should be aware of. You know, I think it's interesting that we went through that whole node in Sagittarius opposite Gemini. Is, you know, we're seeing that division, and Sagittarius is also the teacher. So it's like, okay, you see the divide. Now it's time to see where you can help. The fact that it's going into Scorpio is like, you're going to have to start really defining your spiritual, I don't want to say mission, inclination, understanding your gifts and getting really serious about it. Whatever boundaries are in place that are unhealthy, that's holding you back, those are going to have to go. Whatever fears you have are going to need to be addressed, because somebody else is probably going to be more fearful than you.
Yeah. And fear has been coming up a lot in my readings. And, you know, to me, fear is a liar. It's an illusion. And it is a way to hold you in place from moving forward. And that's how I view it. I mean, okay, so let's rewind a little bit. I have been like, okay, my mission is to heal the root chakra from the sexual trauma. Let's take care of that. Okay. Heal the root chakra from the abusive relationship as the result of the sexual trauma. Okay. Not a problem. And then 2020 hit, and I was like, there's more.
Right. The layers of the onion. You're just like, why?
Like,
why is there more?
I had, you know, gotten my divine essence, and I had gotten to a point where I was good with me, and I was happy with my job, and life was moving, it was going well. And then we get shut down, and then there was another fear that hit me out of nowhere. Yeah. And you know, that was fear of losing a child. And you know, telepathic communication, let me tell you, is 100% real. That's the only time that my Reiki master has ever reached out to me and said, girl, we got to talk. What's going on? I don't ever reach out to anybody. I feel when anybody that's connected to me needs me, but I don't want to freak you out. We got to talk. Yeah. Well, that alone freaked me out, because I was like, holy shit, what am I doing wrong? You know? Right. It wasn't must be doing something really wrong. Doing anything wrong. You know, I was terrified. Oh my God, am I ever going to get to tell my kids goodbye? I had been directly exposed to people that have COVID, and now what, you want me to go into isolation for 2 weeks, and I can't see my kids, and this can possibly fucking kill me? But then if I go to see my kids, I risk killing them. And it wasn't so much me, it was them. And, you know, she kept saying, Brooke, you keep worrying about Jacob. You have the same health conditions. You have the same problems. Not once have I heard you say, I'm worried about myself. And I'm like, well, I'm not worried about myself. When it comes to my kids, I'm going to be selfless. I will give my life for them gladly. You know, that's my babies. That's what a mother does. but yeah, that was a fear. And I have had to sit with that fear for almost 2 years. I mean, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day was when we were shut down. So, that was definitely a hard one to sit with. And then, he got sick again. Well, he did get sick with COVID and then had to take his Humira shot and got sick again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna fall all to pieces. And that's when I went to California to do the last healing from where I got married. That was our home. We lived there. That's where the children were conceived. And I knew at that moment I was judged for leaving when Jacob was sick. First off, they live with their dad. I get them on the weekends. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't going to see the kid for 2 weeks anyway. I couldn't get my hands on him. So to be judged for that, hey, that's not cool. But in being a Reiki master and knowing how energy works, we are energetically connected through, the umbilical cord, your belly button chakra, right? So if I can keep my vibe high and energetically send that to him, regardless if I'm with him or not, energy can be sent. I mean, I can work on people around the world and they can feel the energy, because it's not me. It's, the angels, God, all of that, right? So I knew in that moment that was the best thing that I could do for Jacob. The more healing I did on myself and releasing that marriage, releasing that little girl that was so broken. I mean, I'd been through some fucked up shit.
Yeah.
And send that back to him. And, on the way home, I stopped by my sister's, and I'm so thankful that I did, because it wasn't long after that she lost her son. So I almost feel like in that moment, God was walking me through it to be able to sit down and talk to her before it even happened.
Yeah.
Because I did tell her, Jacob's sick. He's been sick for weeks. And when he started getting sick again after he took his shot, I got in the road and I just started driving. And I knew that's where I needed to be. And, everybody deals with trauma in a different way. I could have stayed there, worried myself sick, locked myself up in the house. Instead, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something that sets me on fire, that is for me and my growth and my happiness. And I'm going to do this for my children, because they need me whole too. So
I love that. And I think that's important to even acknowledge, because I think what I realized when I started doing that kind of work, I don't know if or when I'll ever have kids, but I do recognize being in a better vibration for that. Just even physically and spiritually.
Yeah. And which I love that you bring up children, but I was having a conversation with another friend, and she said to me, I'm terrified to think about having kids with what's going on with the hospital. You have to be, before you can come in. And I have witnessed.
You're like, home birth.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, really.
Right. So, anybody that does Reiki, energy work, medullas, things like that, I love that this is being brought up, because this definitely could be something that could be offered to pregnant women.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the times that we're going into now, it's going to be more than ever very important, that's what I'm saying about being here, being ready. And that's why I've mentioned, and I don't want to sound like a broken record or mean or insensitive, but that's why I've mentioned really leaving some things at the door, like really leaving some things that's healed, because now I have to move forward. Like there are layers to everything, because we live in a layered world. We just do. Mm-hmm. So, that's always going to be there. But shifting focus, I think, is really going to be important to be available. I think that's really what it's about. And that's really what I'm trying to get at, is being more available for whatever the next step is, for whoever it is.
Yeah, but I also think those triggers are there to let you know, ding, 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 hey, this person's going through what you've healed.
Well, alarms, right. And that's,
alarms,
and maybe that's, when I was talking about Scorpio the other day, and really holding on to secrets and really, keeping something safe for those moments, because sometimes it's not even for you to remember or work on. Sometimes it is like, it's your ministry. It's your, you know what I mean? It's your, what is that word? Your testimony, it's to be that witness. And it doesn't mean like holding on to it like I can never forget and it's so traumatic and blah, nah, 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 nah. But you keep it for yourself. And then I think you're right. Sometimes those triggers are there for certain things to be shared in that moment, but it's only for that moment, and but even acknowledging, like, there are things that I have my own stories that I don't have to tell. And I don't have to relive it, and I don't have to keep healing it constantly every time it gets triggered, but I can let it rest and say, okay, I'm going to keep that sacred. And if somebody needs to know this story, I can tell it without it wounding me or taking me back or making me do work that I thought was finished or anything like that, and letting it be for that moment. Here's my gift to you. I've walked in your shoes to this point.
Right.
Right.
I want to be able to get to that point of not having any emotions talking about something.
Well, I don't know that it's emotionless. It's just more, it's that King of Cups energy, where it's a mastery of the emotions. You feel them all very deeply. And it is true. And, maybe you do tear up and maybe you do cry, because it is very personal and you're sharing it with somebody, and it's probably a moment, but, it's not meant to overwhelm you. Right. You walk on those waves. You don't let them drag you under. I think that's really what it is. It's just having a mastery over the element of water. And that's kind of why I like to work with elements more when we look at astrology charts. Sometimes I'll look at the element and not the archetype, not the sign, not the planet. It's like, okay, let's get alchemical. Let's start working with this, because there's a reason we make those associations. We have all those different bodies, our own layers, and getting them to play nice with each other sometimes has to be that rudimentary. It becomes more manageable, and it's really beautiful, really.
I don't know the archetypes as well as I know the energy.
And that's okay. I mean, really, because you look at the constellations that they're all based on, and it's the hero's journey, or for some people, it's the fool's journey. It's ultimately, it needs to be your journey. And archetypes, there are universal archetypes like mother, things like that. Mother is like the easiest one to use as an example, because everyone knows that relationship and what they think it should be, what it is, what we're taught it is. It's just easy. But sometimes I get frustrated with some of the signs on my chart. I changed one of them just for that reason. I've made Aries into a stag, It works out constellation wise. It still fits. It's actually perfect. But there's something that happens to the view when you shift that. So, you know, I think it's important to look at the archetypes because it's like our coding. It's like our inner coding on how we act and how we look at things in our worldview. I probably wouldn't focus too much on that. I think that can be troublesome because you can self-identify too much. That's, you know, a pet peeve with astrology. People are like, well, I'm an Aquarius. And it's like, okay, yeah, but you're also all of them. You're all of them. You're focused on that because that's where a planet is speaking to. That's where you have a lot of pressure, a lot of energy, but you're actually all of them. And it's worth it to work with all of them for that whole and complete self. And I think that's what I like about runes, is because they speak to the pattern of life in a way that is livable. It's tangible. It's based in reality. And you can look at the stars with them. I bet, you know, it would be fun to just sit around with a star map and like find a bunch of runes and like trace them out and be like, I found them all, you know. You can find them all over the place. But excuse me, ultimately, it is about being and being the middle path and not trying to be one or the other. Whatever your inclinations are, sure. I mean, if you think of a color wheel, you could be this particular hue of blue and I can be this particular hue of green.
Right.
But I mean, as long as you understand you're part of all of it, then that's the most important to me. But
it's easy for me to connect with the energy of the planets and the signs that they're in than it is archetypes, because I feel that energy. So with the archetypes, I have to memorize it. So it's something that doesn't come naturally.
Well, and you can see the signs as archetypes. That's a way to look at it. You know, when we talk about, pick one. Cancer. I love Cancer. And you can see a crab as an archetype, and you look at the qualities and you look at it as a creature in nature. It's easy to identify with creatures in nature because they inhabit this world with us. We can learn about them. We can see our same actions playing out. I loved discovering that crabs have like a hatch that all their little children can like run into and they can close it up on the bottom of them. I had no idea.
I had no idea either.
Yeah, it looks like weird, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like what it is. And they just like close it up. They're like a tank. It's adorable. But it, you know, that speaks really beautifully of seeing that particular sign as a crab, that it is all encompassing. It is actually, I mean, yeah, its shell is on the outside, but it is something that is meant to bring you in. And it's, I mean, you can even go as far as just even reading into the glyph. I mean, you have mirrors with Gemini, and then you have this like interaction in Cancer. You have this dynamic between the masculine and the feminine that's creative. It doesn't have to just be the moon and the mother. It can be the two of them becoming the world, interacting with each other, the tides, the sun, the moon, like the interplay. I mean, and just recognizing that everyone has that within them. We all experience that. That's the easiest way. And then when you have planets in those signs, you're like, okay, well, now this planet is wearing that costume. How's it going to act? You know, Mars in Cancer can be a certain way. It can be really beautiful. A lot of people, you know, I don't like to get hung up on tradition because there's too many incredible dynamics. People are so unique, you know, to always look at it and be like, oh, it's detriment. And that's always how you see it. Get out of here. It can be like one of the most beautiful aspects that a person could have. It absolutely could. So, you know, I love that you connect with the planets that way, because I think it's important to connect with them one-on-one. For sure.
Yeah. And it's been hard for me to connect, and it's easier for me to connect the angels with the zodiac than it is the archetypes.
And I've seen that there are angel associations. You've probably seen that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered, I was going to ask you last night when you had, when you were struggling with a Saturn aspect, I don't remember which one, but I was going to ask if that was something that
it's starting its climb over my moon. So it's moving over my moon, progressing over my natal moon for the next year and a half.
Okay. So those would be angels that I would probably, want to call on and have at my
So I've got that happening with Saturn, and then I've got Venus and Pluto retrograding. Well, Pluto's sitting on top of my natal Venus at 26 degrees on my DC. And exactly, and has been setting on there forever.
You're like, could you move? Shoot.
Like, you've blown my life, my routine up for 2 flipping years, dude.
Right.
And can the tower stop?
Seriously. Well, it's just time to become the tower moment. You be the lightning, tears it down. That's all. And that's a big part of Pluto's transmutation.
With
for sure.
Venus.
Man, I love that. I think it's so cool because it can be like, it could be really loving. Venus is not somebody you mess with. Like, no. But you can always release with love. You can always, choose that path. There was this story that I grew up watching. It was like this movie that came out. It was called The Polar Bear King. I was like, I don't want to say what it is. It's old. But in the story, the character is given this pair of scissors. And we're like, oh, scissors are so, aggressive, cutting things away. But what they do, they're magic scissors. And so every time she snips, fabric starts coming out. So they create. So I started seeing it as like that. It's like, okay, I might be cutting this off, but I'm creating something new.
Well, I mean, that's basically what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. And so it helped me to have that visual, because I think when people are like, you got to cut ties, and it's like, just remember to do it like nice. Pluck those threads and, be cool about it.
I feel like I can have a civil dispute, disagreement, a healthy argument, whatever, with anybody in this world but one person. And I feel like that it doesn't matter how much work you do if somebody's not willing to meet you in the middle and be civil, remove emotions, and talk like adults.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree with you 100%. With those people, I just choose to not.
Well, and that's part of it. That's part of having grace. Really, that's part of having grace. It's like, okay, we're not a vibrational match. And you don't just because you love doesn't mean that you have to put yourself in positions and be around people that you aren't a match for. So, I think that, I don't know if that's something that gets talked about when, the idea of unconditional love gets thrown around, because you can still love. You don't have to be a doormat. You don't have to like everybody, but you can still be loving. You can still walk in grace and honor, even if it doesn't work. Sometimes that's the hardest, but it's right. It's the right path.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But I definitely needed those platonic relationships to teach Venus the lesson she needed to learn. I mean, because Pluto's sitting right on top of my natal Venus. So this is all about my love, my relationships, my health, my Venus rules my 10th house with my Chiron. So Pluto has played a huge role when it comes to my relationships.
Yeah.
Like huge role. And, it's been a blessing. It's been awesome to look back and go, holy crap, look at how far you've come. Look at where you were and look at where you are now. It's not been an easy road to walk because I've had to leave a lot of relationships behind of this is where I'm going. Clear vision. I know where I'm going. If you can't join and walk with me,
right.
See ya.
Yeah.
I don't really care what relationship this is. I don't care if we were together in Atlantis. I don't care who you are and what past life we have spent together. If you are toxic for me, I have to keep walking. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's not been easy because I will say there's something different about those relationships.
Right. That is the challenge too. That's probably the biggest challenge. Now, if I've met those people, I haven't had that context. So, I can't say, oh yeah, I knew them in a past life. I just knew this is different. This is something, whatever. But same thing. If it's going to be toxic, then okay, bye. I might love you very much, but this isn't healthy and that it has to stop. And not allowing it to be a point of grief either, because it's like I think we're all looking for people that we vibrate with. So it's like, well, okay, now that person is not around, but I'm capable of feeling this. I'm capable of drawing this in. So the next thing that I draw in is going to be, man, even better than that, right? Because it's going to be the right thing.
I will say I have only had 2 regrets. Okay. Having an Aquarius moon, I will say I'm socially awkward when it comes to flirting.
We have the same moon.
Yeah. So I'm like, when I went to California, I was in Texas on the 9th, the 10th, the 9th. I was in Texas. And there was big bugs. Like the desert has some big bugs. So let me tell you, East Tennessee don't have bugs like this, okay? And I got out of my car and I was like, holy smokes. Like it was covered. I think we're talking like big bugs. And I'm like, there's a cowboy.
Oh, yeah.
A tight t-shirt on, some tight jeans, cowboy boots. Ugh. So I'm like, he's got to be a local. I was in Amarillo. No, I wasn't. I was in Albuquerque. And I decided, I'm like, well, I'll start a conversation with him and just kind of see where it goes. And I look at him and I'm like, so where can I get my car blue? Like, where can I get it blown off? And he was like, what? And then I looked at myself, I'm like, what am I even saying? I'm like, I mean, I need to blow my car off. And then I was like, what is coming out of my mouth? Like panic. Like, Brooke, you have literally lost your mind. What are you even trying to communicate with this guy? All communication just went south. And He's looking at me and I'm like, well, you're local, right? Where can I get my car washed? There's a lot of bugs. And he's like, oh, I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. My only regret was not going, here's my number.
Right.
Call me.
Also.
Yeah. And I told my kids this story when we went to Oklahoma, and Luke was like, hey, let's go to, because that town that I met him in was only an hour and a half from my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, no, the chances of running into him again are going to be slim to none. But I learned my lesson. Like, a hot dude starts talking to me at a gas pump.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to give him my number.
You're going to need a whiteboard just to like say hi.
Like, I have no flirting skills whatsoever. No.
Yeah. I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Well, Jupiter's right on top of my moon, so it's like by 100. I'm like, I'm going to say something. It's going to sound suggestive. Or you know what I mean? It's going to be the wrong thing.
Yeah.
They're like, no. That's not what I meant. It's not what I meant. But I meant it, but not what I meant.
Yeah. And I'm like, how did I ever get dudes in the past?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
But hey, I was working through fear, talking to a good-looking guy, because I tend to revert back to that Cancer, go within my shell, step back, observe, feel, let all my little spidey senses go off, right? Because that's going to tell me a whole lot. That's going to give me a lot of room to judge whether I should or whether I shouldn't. And that's not really fair to other people, but
yeah,
you know, it's how I am. You know, I can't help it. I'm feeling the energy. It's my superpower. I feel it. So, I don't know how I ever, maybe because I've always been attracted to extremely dominant, like straightforward men, to where I don't have to question if a guy's into me or not. If I have to question if a guy's into me or not, then I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You've lost me, because I'm not going to take that lunge and be like, hey, and I'm socially awkward. I don't even know how to flirt. Like, how do you flirt? Like, hey, 6 foot, your ankles in those jeans. Like, how do you flirt?
Yeah. I have no idea. Because I'll just make stupid comments, like superficial, like tourist kind of comments, you know? I'm like, oh, how do I not bring up that kind of crap? Like, nice shirt. I mean it though. Like,
but you really do.
Right. Because I'm like, I observe those things. I like that, you know? Oh, it's so ridiculous. Yeah, I have no clue. I don't know, because I feel like I want to be more receptive, but you have to remember I have Venus in Aries. So there is a part of me that's like, I'm going to approach this person, but I feel like I've had bad luck doing that. So I'm like, I need to just not. I just need to let him do it. But the Aries gets impatient, you know? I'm like, he's not saying anything. He must not like me. It's a mess. It's a mess.
I have Venus in Capricorn, so I'm not very romantic. I'm not very warm and fuzzy. I obviously, you heard my story. I asked guys where I can get my car blue. Like,
I'm terrible at small talk. You know, I'll probably say something really weird, you know? It's the Aquarius moon. It's going to be weird.
Yeah, but now you stimulate my mind, and we're talking about something that I love, and men are like, oh my God, she's flirting. And I'm like, no, I'm just passionate about what I love. But when it comes to romance and passion and the opposite sex, I'm like extremely backwards. balance.
Oh, see, and with Aries in the first house with Venus, I'm about it. And I go all in. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be all romantic. It's going to be like, you're going to wish you found me ages ago. You know? But I don't know. That's just part of it. And I don't always know that that's what people like, because I think for a while, and maybe this was, because I also have Lilith right next to that. And I don't like to bring her up very often, but I think somebody said it like one time, and then I was self-conscious about it forever, about like they were dissing on somebody that they thought was clingy. And then I was like, oh my God, I do not want to be clingy, because I like being independent. I like you to be free. I don't want to, I want to like dote on you, but I don't want you to think I don't want you to be free. Like, don't misread me.
Right. I
So,
want to look at my app real quick. Hold on just a second. Nope, not that one. Because I don't want to tell you this wrong in just saying it off the top of my head. I have Venus, Juno, and Lilith, like all right there together. So Venus and Juno are both in my 6th house. Okay. And then Lilith is in my 5th house. In the 5th. And Lilith is at the beginning degrees of Sag, and Juno is at 29 degrees Sag. And okay. And then I have Venus at 26 degrees Capricorn on my DC.
Well, at least it's on your descendant, because that's what you're going to be attracted to, supposedly, right? That's how that is. That's why it drives me crazy to be like, oh God, I have Virgo on my descendant. No. I'm going to say that now. No.
Well, and my South Node's there too.
Your South Node is there too. Okay. Well, that's a lot to have going on over there. Yours is so much more spread out than my chart. And I struggle with houses. I have a hard time remembering houses.
So your 6th house has to do with your day-to-day, right? Work, nurturing.
Okay. Your self-care.
So it's Virgo.
Yeah. Right. I know. And I try not to think about it whole sign, because people are always like, oh, that's so, it's not always exactly the same. But
6th house is naturally ruled by Virgo. Right. So yeah. When I think about the houses, that's how
same. That's usually how I do it. So it takes me a minute, but I think you're a lot more outgoing than you give yourself credit for, even if it is awkward.
I know who I can be outgoing with and who I can't.
I think that's what it is because of that sensitivity. You're like, that's my superpower, is feeling people. And same when I'm out and like in crowds, like I am very sensitive to people. So it is very much about that. And I think that's where it just gets funny, because you're like, yeah, I'm feeling it. What do I do now?
Did you ever find out a way to follow that band that we listened to?
I couldn't even remember what they were called.
And the dude.
I could not for the life of me remember the name of that band. Not even their name. I couldn't remember. So no. I was like, crap. I thought I tried to write it down, but I did not. I remembered 2 of the other ones, but that one, no. And that was like one of the best ones. Right. If it wasn't the best one.
Right. I was like, this music is really good. We're going to have to stop. Yeah. They were awesome.
They were amazing. For sure. I know, I was like, I'm standing here and I'm crying. Got me right in the feels.
Yes. It
was crazy.
It was a fun trip.
It was.
I'm definitely glad that I talked you into going with me.
I know. I was like, oh. I've been like that since I was small. I can be spontaneous at certain points, and then there's other points where it's really difficult. It's very difficult. And I think that's why I lean more in my sidereal chart, because that's where my Capricorn moon shows up the most. Because my mom would have to like prepare me as a small child. She's like, we're going to go somewhere. It's going to be okay. And I'm like, okay, I know about this. Okay.
You know, what's funny is my dad has always lived in Texas or Arkansas or Oklahoma. So my mother literally at 5 years old would put me on an airplane.
Yeah.
By myself.
Wow.
Yeah. Could you imagine putting a 5-year-old on an airplane?
No. My mom flew with us. My siblings and she flew with us. So I don't think she would ever do it.
Like
I'm not sure I would do it.
No, girl, no. Are you kidding me? Not at all. But, you know, traveling has always been it's always been a part of my life.
Yeah. Same. And I think moving around has been, you know, it's just one of those, to an extent I like it, because that's where my midheaven is in Sagittarius. I like that travel aspect of it. But I can see times when it might not have been great, you know, where it's like, I didn't need that journey, or, you know, I can find all the blessings about it. I can absolutely see how it was good and how it was bad and all that stuff. But sometimes it's not the right move for me. I've moved around more times than I care to. And I've gotten rid of so much of my life. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's like we were talking about with being very etheric. It's like recoding yourself out of existence. If I get rid of everything in my life, yeah, I might have nothing and I'll love it, right? Isn't that the idea, is non-attachment? But then I'm not attached to anything in this world. And as an earth sign, that's not okay. Because that's material. That is the earth. That's what we're here to experience. Yeah. We're here for this. So I can see there have been times when it's like, well, you know, it's not about possessions, but it is about having the things you need. I just bought a new compass. I used to have the exact same compass. What happened to it? Why don't I have that? I had to rebuy art supplies. That's stupid. Those are my tools. You don't ask a carpenter to do that. You don't say, get rid of all your tools. You're a new person. You don't do that. Right. So, you know, there are times when moving has been great. And a lot of times in my life, though, it's not been by choice. I didn't want to leave the house I was at. It wasn't the best house, probably not. But I didn't want to come back here. Right. You know, so, I mean, there's stuff like that.
Floated around for a hot minute.
I've done the gypsy life. I've done it. And I'm not about it anymore. I think trips and vacations are fun, but I like having a home base, you know? Yeah. I think that's important. So
I agree. I had a home base. I put myself together in that home base, but I needed a year to feel free. Because of Like, I enjoy having a home base. I don't enjoy this transitional phase that I'm in. I have had to get to the point of being okay with having nothing. I mean, like what you were saying, but I think it's just, you don't have to physically go through and do it. You just need to emotionally get to that point and
Right.
accept that you will be fine if you have nothing, but I want to, have this or have that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, that's why, like, I never really dreamed about a wedding. I never dreamed about all of that stuff. I guess until I went to my brother's wedding in Hawaii. And I was like, when I left my ex-husband, that's it, no more. When my kids are raised, I'll date. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't get me wrong, I dated, but I didn't date because I wanted a relationship. Hey, I would see you once every blue moon, go on a date, hang out, whatever. And that's all it was.
Yeah.
So to get to a point of being open for a relationship, open for welcoming a man into my life and I was pretty fixed. I had to have this. You know what I mean? In
Mm-hmm.
order
Mm-hmm.
to be able to flow with life.
Well, and I've been very opposite in some ways. I I have things that I imagine, because I'm in Pisces rising, I do have things that I like and things that I would like to have, that I would want, but at the same time, I really don't care. I am about simplicity. So that's why sometimes when I say, I didn't need to go through some of that, it's because I didn't. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't need to learn non-attachment to items because I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, whatever, it's a thing. You can replace it. I can survive without it. I can, whatever. I don't need to learn that lesson. And that's why it hurt me,
Mm-hmm.
because it was like, cool, that was totally unnecessary. There are heirloom items that are gone from my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, that was special. That was something that I wanted. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'll ever have kids, but I would like to pass things on. I like archiving.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I make these charts. I love record keeping. So, can I do without? Absolutely. I'm like the most easy. You saw how I packed. I packed like I like barely had anything. So, it's just one of those things. I don't need that lesson. And that's what I'm saying. It's like realizing which lessons you need to learn and which ones you don't,
Mm-hmm.
and really understanding that. And I think a lot of ascension programs and talks feel tricky in that aspect, because it's a little impersonal. You don't know where everyone's at. So you're like, well, we're just going to cover all of it. And it's like, well, yeah, sure, that might be good, but maybe some people have learned some of this before and they might go out back and do something that they don't need.
Right. Right.
And that can be hard.
Right. Well, I truly, in a healing generational, when I think about healing the Trinity, my
Mm-hmm.
mother, my grandmother, this was to show me how strong that is.
Right.
So as much as I didn't want to become my mother, and in some ways I wasn't, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in some ways I was very attached to my home, material things, right? It's to the point that I'm like, I got a ton of stuff in storage, and I'm about tempted to just start handing it out to people. Here you go. Let me bless
Yeah.
you with this. Let me,
Yeah.
you want something? And keep one little bitty one with just sacred items and be like, okay, well, fine. I'll just figure it out. Is that a logical thing to do? Well, I don't really know. But all of that has all my old energy attached to it. Do I really want my old energy coming back into my new home?
Right. And I will have to go soon, but I do I do want to touch on that a little, because I've noticed somebody was like, oh, I get really high and I clean. I'm like, I get high and I purge because of that. Because I'll find something and I'll be like, oh, it's got that energy, and that's past, and I got to get rid of it. And then I'm like, oh, that was actually something I really liked and I had fun with. So it's also about shifting your relationship with yourself and how you see yourself and how you view your past. And if you need to cleanse it, sage the crap out of it. Whatever you need to do, set crystals on all your DVDs, whatever. Because if it's something that you like, you can still like parts of your past self. There are still parts of my past self that's like, you know what? I liked that about me. And maybe I don't want to relive that. And maybe I know that I'm very different, but I don't need to toss the baby out with the bathwater. And I can see myself in a different light. And that thing is something I can still enjoy. And I can watch that movie and be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm glad I kept that. I'm glad I kept that memorial of myself.
Right.
But yeah, I think, just shifting our views of our past self is important too. And yeah, there are definitely things it's like, I don't want to remember the heck out of that. But, if it's something, I choose things very specifically. So it's not like it's not sacred. I don't just spend money, it's very intentional. I'm an intentional shopper. So
I get it. I have my Chiron in Taurus, so
yeah.
I have been trying to master my relationship with money.
And that is something also. Lack mentality is a big part of it. When I was thinking about this earlier with the first two runes both being cows. And I would encourage you to watch the videos that Ben and I have done, because we go through them all. But that's the first thing he talked about. And it's the first thing that I'm like, hell yeah, is realizing that it's not about money. It's like that dream I had in Egypt, where we're making cards, and the cards are just processes of life. And in my dream, my sister had so many earth cards. And that was to show me that, A, there's no set amount to how you talk about and experience your life. B, it has nothing to do with money. Nothing. It was loud. It was like, this has nothing to do with money. So when we talk about Taurus, when we talk about earth signs, it's about recognizing prosperity and what that really is. And the relationship with money is complicated because I hate that I have to have it. But even saying that is something that I have to fix. I don't hate that I have to have it. That's stupid. I love that I have the ability to use a tool like that on so many other things. It allows me to do this. It allows me to do that.
It's an energy exchange tool.
Right. And that's where the shift has to happen, is seeing it as a tool. And you know what? If you want to love the tool, okay. Just don't be like madly in love with the tool, because that doesn't really help anybody out.
Mine was really embedded with my mother, because my Chiron is in opposition of my stellium in the 4th house. So she places money more valuable than people.
And that's, I think, part of that, because I've noticed some of that within my own folks too. I think some of it is just generational and their understanding of what these tools do. Excuse me. And it's the understanding that's more powerful, because I know when I sit here and I'm like, oh, I did this, that, and the other thing. And when my mom goes, it must be nice, like I'm living in a lot of luxury, it's like, look, it's not about the money, because I can go and do anything to earn money, but it's about quality of life. And in their generational understanding, their system did work for them. So when they're saying, go to college, get a degree, work in that degree, it's because for them, it was working at that time.
Yeah, and that system's not going to be around.
It's not around. It's not working for me. It hasn't worked for anybody in my generation. So for me to have that same view of money is just,
it's absurd.
Not. Yeah, it's not real.
Right. And
it's not going to happen.
What's wild is my twins and I are like, our sons are progressing to our midheaven at the exact same time.
Wow.
Right. I guess because they were born in the fall, the days smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to progress into their midheaven. Their progression will be around the time that they graduate.
Wow.
Right.
Of all the synchronicities to happen, because that's when so much pressure is to like go do your thing.
Yeah. So, I'm looking at it as in, this isn't just for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is for my children. This is for their future.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That was the whole point of taking them to my dad's. I mean, how fortunate they are to have that.
Right. And that's why I like to keep heirloom items. Like I love the stuff that my mom kept from her high school and things like that, because it gave me that perspective, a tangible perspective on a timeline when certain systems were in place, when certain things did work, so that I had that compare contrast, that I could see that. And that's a good gift to have. I mean, I'm not a gentleman. I don't know how a guy would react to his mom's stuff, but I think it's, it still would be impactful and very powerful. Hey, this is my life. This is how it could have turned out. Here's how my gifts were operating. Here's how they might not have been. Because, I did have the opportunity to go to a graduation party for some kids I nannied. And that was fun. I wish I hadn't been late because I kind of missed one of my favorites. I mean, they were all my favorite, but I definitely had some favorites. But that was some of the advice that I gave them. It's like, no matter how wild it seems, always do what you love to do. It doesn't matter if it's hard. It doesn't matter if there's a process for it, if the process works, or if it doesn't work. Because there is an element of faith and trust that has to go into it. And that's where I'm at now, is having what I didn't have in high school, having the faith and trust, because that's all the energy I feel when I'm here. I'm like, I am not in 2003 anymore. Right. I'm not. So it's coming out of here going, okay, my gifts and my talents and my skills are going to be that moneymaker. Because and even if they are able to give me other blessings, that's better. I want that. But understanding that is a system and tools that are in place. And I have to trust that the universe knows which timeline I'm in. So obviously all of this is going to have to work together. Do I know how it's going to happen? No. Do I know how other people think it could happen? Yes. Have I looked at options? Yes. Because that's wise. So it's just about, that faith and that trust, and that is hard. It's hard for me, especially when you have perspectives constantly around. It's like, I know how you think it should work. I'm telling you from my experience, it does not work that way for me. So literally being okay walking a different path on that arena, on the financial arena.
Amen, girl. And it's not like I have, made money using my spiritual gifts. It's not that, it was so many hits back to back. Like, when am I going to get a break with the healing? There's been so many, like one right after another, boom, 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 till, okay, really just the last 2 weeks when I finally took my kids to my dad's, it was like, okay, now I can put 100% into what I'm building.
Yeah.
Now I can put 100% into it. because I've not been able to put 100% into it.
Well, and because your kids are getting older, I don't know them. I don't know where their interests lie, what kinds of things they like. The only thing I know is that they like sports. So, are there any places that you can become a team? Are there any places where you can work together and do work together? Maybe that's something to explore, because
I think they're going to, like my dad, custom machines, long range sniper rifles.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So the family business is already there.
Yeah. Gunsmithing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. So, that's a plus. That's good. And that's what that whole trip was about. That whole trip was it was not for me. Like, my dad has spoke to me and my sisters, and he's like, I need somebody to step in and take over the company. And,
could you start Reikiing all the guns? My little brother and I joked about this, but like, you could make enchanted weapons.
It almost seems counterproductive.
No.
Let me Reiki this, and then you go kill somebody.
It's only going to be, used when it needs to be.
So I think them seeing it, them having that, the next 2 years are going to be hard because they're still in school. And I beg them, all you got to do is just quit. We'll do homeschool. Boom, it's over. All of it. Yeah. That's all you got to do. And guess what?
All the stress.
It's all gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
maybe they need that completion. Like they need it for themselves. So
yeah. Well, girl, thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah, thank you.
I know. I think I just get nervous because I'm like, well, what the hell are we going to talk about? And then I'm like, well, we really hadn't talked. There's a lot that we can talk about. A lot. Let's start digging. What else happened? There's probably even more.
But I think everything that you said some amazing things. And I think anyone who watches this is going to have a fantastic outlook on you and your work. And
thank you.
I'm getting to know you more. So it's been fun. It's been really fun.
I know I'll have to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, girl. I love you. I'm going to end this, and then I want to say bye if that's cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So thank you, Rachel, for coming on. Thank you for sharing your time and your knowledge and your wisdom with me. Definitely takes me back to our journey to Utah, jumping in a car with a complete stranger. We had some adventures.
We did.
It wasn't too bad. I wasn't too grouchy in the morning when I couldn't get a shower.
No, and I hope I wasn't totally, deadpan grouch either.
No, you're good.
No, I had fun.
Like, can I turn the generator on so I can like
it's kind of cold.
The generator's not going to do anything with the water. Fuck. I can't shower.
We did it. We roughed it.
I'm such a diva. I can't help it. Like, you want to go out and camp, cool, but I want to wash my armpits. You mean to tell me I'm supposed to meet dudes this way?
Like, I'm gonna find the right dudes. He's gonna be like, man, you stink.
I know, right? Like, oh my word. Completely out of my comfort zone.
You did great. It was fun.
Yeah. All right, girl. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no, hold on.